Did Chinese officials make any direct or indirect threats as to the consequences if you signed this treaty with Australia?
Not at all, and I want to commend Chinese who gave us full respect to our sovereign interests, and they understand very clearly where we've come from. In 1975, prior to September 16, we were part of the Australian sovereignty. Our shared history speaks volume, and so they clearly understand where we are going, and we've been transparent to not just Chinese, but all nations we have foreign relationship with or security relations with. The construct of this treaty is a construct in peacetime for peace. This is not a construct to create war. It is rather a construct to establish peace.
And yet, at the same time, the Australian Defence Review, Strategic Review, recently made absolutely clear and explicit that it was being put together with an eye to the rapid militarisation of the Chinese military. Do you see the militarisation of China in the same way as Australia does?
Each nation, whether it's Australia or China or any nation for that matter, have their own strategic views in terms of their military, and it's entirely up to China or Australia to build up their defence force.
Except that now you're involved in a mutual defence treaty where you would join Australia if it came under attack.
There is a provision in the agreement that when subject to whenever attacks does take place, if it does happen, and there is ability for PNG Defence Force Commander and Australia Defence Force Commander to engage in making critical military decisions at that point in time.
So you are not actually necessarily committing to join a conflict with China that Australia was involved in?
What does PNG have to offer right now? That's a question I would be letting my country know. At the moment, our military capacity is not at a space where we are an active participant. We are a contributor to subject conflict, and so it is in our interest to work to build. And I don't necessarily see China as an enemy. China is a good relationship nation, even with Australia, with PNG. We trade with China. We do business with China, and so there's no need for an alarmist approach in this conversation.
But if it's a realistic question as opposed to an alarmist one, obviously the Australian Defence Force, the Australian Defence Establishment has considered the possibility of war with China. We know the Americans have considered that possibility. So what does PNG do in those circumstances?
I don't have the mindset of Australian Defence Force to speak for the Australian Defence Force.
But the question is actually what PNG would do in those circumstances. Let me put it like this, Prime Minister.